Hello, welcome back to Math 8. This is a video over Section 3, which is talking about translation. So in Section 2, we had an overview of all of the different transformations, and Section 3 is when we start to talk about each of them specifically, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about translations today. Our objectives are we want to identify and describe a translation on the coordinate plane. We want to translate figures on the coordinate plane given as an ordered pair in verbal expression, and then describe a translation using coordinates. Okay, so remember, a translation is simply just a slide. Okay, we're going to take an object and we're simply just going to move it over. Okay, and so in order to identify a translation shows how a figure can slide in the coordinate plane. All points in the figure move exactly in the same distance in the same direction, okay? The image of a translation is congruent to the pre-image. That's important, okay? That, when we do a translation, it doesn't change size, okay? So in this, I want you to notice that we go, and I'm going to show you this. Let's write this down. Let's write down triangle ABC is translated, and I use a single arrow to denote that, to triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime, okay? This is my pre-image, also known as my OG, and this is my image, okay? And I also think of like this as the result, okay, of doing the translation. Now what you can notice here is that each of these are moved in the same direction, okay? And what I want to show you is to go from A to A prime, we move in that direction, along that line. B to B prime goes here, and C to C prime goes here. All right, so what we want to talk about when we're talking about a translation, because telling you the distance from A to A prime, B to B prime, C to C prime, using this diagonal line can be tricky, okay? So it's important that we talk about what's called the horizontal movement and the vertical movement, okay? And in this case, to go from A to A prime, let's talk about our horizontal movement and then our vertical movement. All right, so in this case, what we do is we have moved this 4 units right and 3 units down, okay? And we can see that movement here on that photo, but what I want to do is talk about what that looks like specifically, okay? So let's talk about specifically moving figures from a horizontal perspective and then a vertical perspective. Now horizontal means that you move a figure left or right, okay? A vertical means you move it up or down, okay? So one of the ways I remember the word horizontal versus vertical, because I always kind of struggle with that. Horizontal, I think of the horizon, okay? The horizon line, all right? And the horizon line is a flat line that goes left and right. All right, and that tells me that if I'm moving it horizontally, I'm moving it left or right, okay? And then vertical is the opposite. All right, so in this instance here, moving this figure, if I move this just horizontally from one point to the next, okay, I am moving this 5 units to the right. All right, so 5 units right, okay? And I could go from this point now to this point, the corresponding point, and that moves over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And same thing going from this corresponding point to this corresponding point, moves over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Okay, so they're all moved in the same direction, the same distance, okay? And that's what provides us with a translation. Now we can talk about a vertical translation, all right? And the easiest way to kind of figure out how this one works is I go from one corresponding point to the other. And this I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. So this is 5 units down. All right. And I can go from one corresponding point to the other. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing with my last one. This point, go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of them move in the same direction, okay? And so I'm not doing anything crazy here, but I'm just analyzing from one figure to the next how that works. So the question is, how do we write that? How do I write something where I move 5 units to the right and 5 units down, okay? And what we do is we do this thing called a translation mapping, all right? So representing translations as mappings, and this is just a rule for translations, okay? And this is the generic rule here that we use, all right? And so what we do is I take a point, x, y, and I show my translation using an arrow, and I do x plus a or y plus b. And A means the units I move horizontally, and B is the units vertically. All right. So, and notice how positive A values would move it to the right, while negative A values would move it to the left. Positive B values move it up. Negative B values move it down. All right. So let's write that here. Positive A values means we move it to the right. Negative A values means we move it to the left. Positive B values means we move it up. And negative B values means we move it down, okay? And that's how we use that, all right? So let's take a look. We're going to use this concept here, all right? All right, and let's do this. Let's write this down. Let's write down x comma y. Translation, and then x plus a, and then y plus b. Let's write that down, okay, because I want to talk about what each of these components mean. xy is your original point, okay, or a point on the preimage. This arrow here indicates a translation, okay, a transformation of some sort, okay, transformation. All right, that's what the arrow means, okay? And then this here, let's use red, is how you get a new point on the image, okay? And I'm going to show you how that works on the next page. Okay, so to put the this formula mapping into perspective, what I want to do is determine the image of a translation. So we've got point A is the point 3, 2, was translated 4 units to the right and 2 units down to form the point A prime. Find the coordinates of A prime. So let's do this. What I want to do is write my rule, okay, my mapping rule, okay. In this case, what we have is we have x comma y, and we're going to transform it. And I'm going to do x plus a, okay, 4 units to the right. So 4 units to the right. Let me do that in red. 4 units to the right means we're going to add 4, okay? And we've also indicated that a is equal to 4. So what I would do is I would write this as x plus 4. All right, then we want to move it 2 units down, okay? That means that I'm going to subtract 2, okay? And remember, A was positive, we move to the right, B is negative, we move it to the left, okay? And so that's how we get those values. So I have this rule here that then I have y minus 2, okay? And so what I do is if I want to put this into motion, I actually then take my point 3, 2. So I'm going to take the point 3, 2, and then I want to translate that. All right. So my x value in this case is 3. My y value is 2. So I then want to do 3 plus 4, okay, comma, y, which is 2, then minus a 2, okay? And so what this will do is I have to then do the math inside of this, and this will give me my new point. So 3 plus 4 is 7. 2 minus 2 is 0, okay? And this is A prime, okay? This is my new point on my image, okay? The result of doing the translation. All right, and if we draw a graph, I'm just going to draw this. You don't need to do this. I'm going to plot the point 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, up 2. Okay, this is point A. And then I'm going to plot the point 7, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this point here is going to be A prime. Now what I did was I moved it 4 units to the right, 2 units down. Okay, so 4 units right, and then 2 units down. And that's what I'm doing, okay? So visually, yes, this is pretty easy to understand. But we have to be able to use these mapping rules to be able to go from one point to the next, all right? So now let's try this, okay? Finding the coordinates of an image. Okay, so find the coordinates of the vertices of the image triangle ABC after it has been translated 3 units to the right, 2 units up. So let's write a rule, all right? And so what I have here is I have, I have my original point xy, and we're going to transform it. And I'm going to do x plus 3, comma, y plus 2. The reason why is because this plus 3 is because I'm moving 3 units to the right. So right means I'm adding. Going up, 2 units up means I'm going to add 2 to that side, all right? And that's my rule, all right? Now, what I want to do here is I want to locate points A. Let's use black. Okay, so point B, and point C. Now, from this graph, I got that point A is the point -3, -4, okay? So -3, comma, -4. Point B is the point -1, -4. Point C is the point -2, 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my rule here. And to translate this into the point A prime means that I'm going to take -3 and I'm going to add 3 to it. Okay, then I'm going to take my y value, which was -4, and I'm going to add 2 to that. All right, and that's going to give me my new point. So let's do the math. So A prime is going to give me -3 plus 3 is 0. -4 plus 2 is -2? Okay, so that's my point for A prime. All right, I'm going to do the same thing for point B. To get B prime, I'm going to take my original value, -1 for x, and I'm going to add 3 to that. I'm going to take my original value for y, which is -4, and I'm going to add 2 to that. All right, and so then as a result, let's do the math. B prime, -1 plus 3 is going to give me -2, and then -4 plus 2 is the point -2. Now, point C, let's translate that to get C prime. This is my point for B prime. Let's take -2, and we're going to add 3 to that. Let's take the point 1 and add 2 to that. All right. So then, as a result, I've got that C prime is the point. -2 plus 3 is 1, and then 1 plus 2 is the point 3. All right, so that's my new point. All right, so now let's just plot those points over on this graph. So 0, -2 is point A prime. Okay, A prime. -1 plus 2, this should be a +2. So homeboy made a mistake there. All right, so positive 2, negative 2. That's going to be this point here. This is B prime. And then C is the point 1, 3. Okay, is going to be up here. This is C prime. All right, and what I've created here is another triangle that is the exact same thing as our original triangle. All right, but I use the points on the graph to help me do that. Now, could you also do the thing of going 3 units right, 2 units up, just looking at the graph? Sure. Okay, so I could simply just go 3 units right, so go 1, 2, 3, up 2, and I get to my new point. Same thing over here, starting at point B, going over 1, 2, 3, and then up 2. Gives me the same thing. Same thing with C prime, C to C prime. I could go 1, 2, 3, and then up 2. Okay, same thing. So, if you have graph paper, that's very easy. But if you don't have graph paper, using a rule can be very easy. All right. Now, the other thing is these numbers work out nice and neat. All right. These points are easily seen on the graph. Doing this translation with numbers that I can just count, that's why you can use the graph. Sometimes you don't have that, all right? And you've got decimals and you've got all those other things, and you want to find those specific points, and that's why we would use that, okay? All right, now let's talk about horizontal and vertical translations. So if I were to do a vertical translation, okay, vertical translation means it's just going to move up or down, okay? So what I want you to see here is that going from x, y to our new point means we would add 0 to the x value, okay? And so x would just stay the same. The only value that you're going to change is the y value. All right, same thing with a horizontal translation. You're not changing the y value on a horizontal translation. You're strictly only changing the x value. So when you see this rule here, where you just have a single x, okay, what this means is that you don't change the x value. Don't change the x value. Okay, you only change y. Okay, and it's the opposite for a horizontal translation. Okay, so horizontal translation, here you don't change the y value, you only change x value. So only the x value. All right, and that's all you're doing. Okay, let's take a look at the last page real quick. Okay, so on this, what I want to do is I want to write a translation rule based off of the graph, okay? And so identify the rule of the translation shown in the figure. And so what I want to do is go from one point to the next, okay? And I can do this a couple different ways. I can do it on a graph, and I can say, all right, well, going from, B to B prime, I'm going up 1 unit, and then to the left, looks like I'm going 5 units. So what this says is that, and let me just count that, double check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we good. All right, so this means we're going up 1 unit, and then we are going to the left 5 units, okay? And so looking at that, what I want to say here, up 1 unit, moving that vertical, B would be equal to 1, all right? So we're going to add 1 to Y. Now the A value that we talked about, left 5 units, means we're going to go to the left, means we're going to subtract. So we're going to, my A value would be equal to -5, okay, which means we're just going to subtract 5. So the rule that I would have here is that I would take my original point x comma y, do my transformation, and then I would have x minus 5 comma y plus 1, all right? And that's my rule, all right? So I don't have to do much. If I have a graph and I can just count the points, I'm really not doing much to write that rule. But if I'm writing a translation rule given coordinates, it gets a little tricky, okay? So looking at my points, point A, is negative 5 comma 1. We translate that to get a prime, and that's going to give me the point 0, negative 2. So what I do is I look at this and I go, okay, to go from negative 5 to 0, what do I have to do? So I think about this. Negative 5 plus some number a gives me 0. All right, and I can solve that equation for a, and I could then add 5 to both sides, and I get that a is equal to 5. Okay, you can also like just think intuitively about it and just think, okay, negative 5 to 0, what would I have to add to negative 5 to get to 0? And that would simply just be 5. Now think about your y value, okay? 1 to negative 2, all right? And I can set up an equation, and I can say 1 plus some number b gives me negative 2. All right, and that's a little tricky because it's hard to see, but to go from 1 to negative 2 means that I would really be subtracting 3. So to solve this equation, I would subtract 1 from both sides, and I would get that b is equal to negative 3. All right, so I can set up those equations to solve for a, to solve for b. All right, and then I can write my rule, which is going to be take the point x, y, do your mapping, and that would give you x and then plus 5, comma, y minus 3, and that's the rule that you would use for your mapping. Okay, so that's it. That's all I got for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.